Hey, welcome to your next best step with Brek Cockrell, the locker room for purpose-driven leaders. This is where we slow down, reflect, and we take our next best step through real stories, practical strategies, and rooted leadership wisdom. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, even the best leaders need a coach in their corner.
Well, hey, friends, welcome to your next best step podcast. This is the Leaders Locker Room, where we slow down, get a little honest, become maybe a little bit more curious, and build the kind of leadership that lasts, significant with a long-term goal, not just immediate outcomes. That's the kind of talk that we talk about consistently here. And so I'm BC, I'm your host. So let's jump in today. Glad to have you. Today is a little bit different. February, I had four incredible leaders on the podcast, some African-American brothers and sisters rooted here from Buffalo. And it was all four, Jamil, Akua, Damar, and Matt. All four were incredible interviews. So grateful for them to spend some time with us. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to those, go back and listen. Each one shared some perspectives that would be great for all of us to hear and to understand. So grateful for them. Today, though, is a little bit different. I've got no guest here in the lab. Speaking of the lab, I can't wait. It's starting to get a little warmer. And so I can get back out to the locker room. And that's what I'm looking forward to, when we can actually get back in there and enjoy that summer warmth. But today we're here still in the lab, and we're going to have, there's no interview today, no guests, just you and me. And I want to talk to you about a phrase that you hear, because it's the name of the podcast, Your Next Best Step. And I wanted to give you a little history on that, why we've named it that way, and kind of really the history with that phrase in my own personal life. I don't think I've spent any time talking about that to you on the podcast. So I thought, hey, this would be a great week to just kind of stop and pause and tell you why it's called Your Next Best Step. But I'm so glad that you're here. Man, I get the chance to work with some amazing leaders, and one of the things that I so appreciate with those that I get to work with is the desire. There's an internal desire to just get better. John Maxwell talks about this. He says we need to be really good at what we do. We need to be great at who we are. And part of the coaching I do is partly for me. It helps me. The things I read, I've got several coaches in my life. I got a business coach. I got a workout coach, and so I got a podcast coach. So I need lots of help. But I love being around leaders who are still humble and hungry and want to get better at who they are and at what they do. And so that's really kind of where I want us to kind of go and to talk about today. Let me take you back a little bit, early 2021. For those of you who don't know my backstory, I was in full-time ministry or church work, if you're not familiar with that term, ministry, for 25 years. Spent 15 years as a boys basketball coach, high school, college, 25 years pastoring, and then stepped into coaching when I turned the big 6-0. And so this is my kind of third iteration, and I am loving what I'm doing right now. But back in 2021, a good buddy of mine, Don Miller, came out with a book called Hero on a Mission. And I actually went through it. It's really, if you haven't heard of it, or if you haven't read it, maybe you've got it on your shelf and you just haven't taken the time to go through it. I would encourage you. My glasses are fogging up on me here. I'd encourage you to go and go through this. Here's basically a synopsis of what Don does in this book, and it's brilliant. And I don't know that I would be sitting here in front of you without me going through that. But um, I had we launched a church, a group of us launched a church in the north part of the city of Buffalo back in 2007, and then I did that from 2007, and it was about 2021, Christmas time, maybe it was 2021, something like that, 20 or 21. Book came out, read the book, and in the beginning of the book, he just talks about how fate is a terrible writer of our story. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks because sometimes Don talks about it in this book. He talks about there's four characters in every great movie, every great story. There's the victim, the villain, the hero, and the guide. And at any given time, we can be any one of those four in our own personal lives, and we can be any one of those four in people's lives. And so he started talking about, the victim being this idea that this is my lot in life. This is my family of origin. This is the city I grew up in. This is the school I had to go to. This is, whatever it is, it's a ceiling, it's a limit. And so a victim says, I can't raise above my ceiling. But typically, what happens in any great story, the hero starts out as the victim, but then moves into the hero role when a guide comes along, when there is a purpose for the victim, when there's a villain to go after, to defeat, whether it's a bomb, whether it's Apollo Creed or whatever that is. And so instead of going, oh, I can't do that because of the power of the guide, the victim becomes now the hero. And I think for us in all of our lives, at times we can play the victim role and we can put a ceiling on top of our growth, our future, and we can simply say, well, I can't do that because, and um and so that's some really limiting beliefs that I know personally I've had, and I know so many others that I work with that have that. And so in this book, Don talks about, hey, if you don't like the story you're in, or if you want to write a different story, and this is how he kind of gets to it. So he says, imagine what it's like when somebody gets a phone call and they hear of your passing. Imagine uh, what they feel like in that moment. Imagine the thoughts that are going through their head, and then think about that, and that hit home to me because both of my parents have recently passed, and so I remember the phone calls that I got. I remember the emotion. Um, and then he asked another question. Think about the memorial service, your celebration service, your funeral service, and think about the people that you want there. Who do you want at that service? And just as important, what do you want people to say about you? What is it that you want them to have known and said and felt because of your presence in their life? And he says, you got that? All right. So he literally has you write your obituary. He's write, like 700 words, write your obituary, right? And it's powerful when you write your own obituary and you think about through the lens of what people are like, one day it's going to happen. And so, and he said, think about your vision, think about what you want to do, the things you still have left in the tank to do. And then he says, take your age and then take the age that you want to live. Like, is that 80? Is it 90? Is it 85? And then subtract the years from how long you want to live to where you are today. Is that 30 years? Is it 40 years? Is it 20 years? And for me, it was roughly, 25 years. Like, wow, that's not a whole lot of time left. And then he said this, and this is what really is sobering. He says, look at the story you're in now. And if you continue with the story that you are living in now, will it match the story that you want it to be? The one you just wrote about, will they match, or will your story go a different direction? And if it doesn't match, then hey, take the pen out of fate's hand and let's start rewriting, or let's start filling in some more. And that's not a negative thing. I think it's important for us to actually look at kind of our life and like what do we have left. And so that's what I did. I wrote the obituary. I did it. He has you do a 10-year plan, a 5-year plan, a two, and then a one. And I realized at the end of that experience and going through that I knew I didn't want to pastor for, into my 60s. I knew I had kind of thought in my mind, man, maybe at 60 I'll transition and do something else. Didn't really know what that might would be. And that's when I started looking back. What are the things that I loved? Where did I best feel like in my sweet spot? And I loved coaching basketball. I love basketball, but it wasn't so much coaching basketball, it was coaching young men and taking them from one kind of level to another kind of level. And as I look back through my life in the development of people in the roles that I played at churches along the way as a youth pastor, family pastor, a lead pastor, it was always the development, seeing how people could go from here to here to here. And and so that's when I said, you know what, I want to get back into coaching. I want to put my coach's hat back on and get back in the coaching game. And so it was out of that, then I enrolled in the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Dr. John Townsend. Amazing. You might want to check that out. So I got my master's in executive coaching and consulting. It's ICF certified and trained. And while I was still pastoring, I did that while I was still pastoring full time. And then while I was pastoring full time, I took a coaching client, which wasn't full time. It was just a small coaching client, but it helped me get my toes in the water. And then as long as pastoring, and so I was kind of doing three things at the same time, each one building, on kind of my future and the things I wanted to do. So in August of 23, after 18 months of planning and working on the plan, after 25 years of being in the pastorate, I officially stepped out of pastoring. I wasn't kind of stumbling into the unknown. I had been walking toward this desired outcome, one intentional step at a time. The whole picture wasn't clear from the start, but each step made the next one visible. That's the next best step way. And for nearly 25 years, my kind of what statement, like this is what I do. I create environments and experiences that allow, and at the time I was a pastor, and so I create environments and experiences that allow people to take their next best step in their relationship with God and with each other. And we tried to give content at every level so that people can make better choices and live with fewer regrets. And so now, as I'm stepping into coaching high capacity leaders and growing leaders, like let me just stay with that because I think that's really at my heart what I want to help people do. So that's what I do. I create environments and experiences for leaders to help them take their next best step. Not all the steps, what's their next best step? And whatever that might be personal, it might be professional, it might be in the organization, whatever that is. And so when I was thinking about like, what do I call the podcast? I thought it's already built into who I am. It's what I do. Your Next Best Step podcast. And I would say that it's tethered to kind of it's my favorite verse, but it's also been my life verse, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And here's a little plug. If you're not getting the Throwdown Thursdays email, I would love to send you an email. It is a short, rooted leadership devotional, little lesson, little challenge that I send out every Thursday. And last week and this week, we're in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, and we're breaking it down through the lens of leadership, through business. And if you're not familiar with that verse, it's this. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight." Now, notice what it doesn't say. It doesn't say figure out the whole path, right? It says he'll make the path straight. Your job, my job isn't to see the whole road, right? If we're going to travel, if we're going to drive, to Nashville from Buffalo, I don't get to see. Now I can kind of see it on a Google map, but I can't see it right all the way down. I can, especially at nighttime, like you put the lights on, you put the brights on, that may give you 200 feet to be able to drive into and to be able to see the light. But as you're driving, you're taking up those 200 feet, and then there's another 200 feet, and then there's another 200 feet, and that's how you make it to Nashville at nighttime driving, right? Well, that's a little bit how it is in life and in leadership. And so, our job is to when it comes to this verse, to me, I just like trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not in your own understanding, and he will help you take your next best step. Right? I love that. So here's three truths about taking your next best step. Um, Here's kind of the philosophy that I want you to carry with you today, whether you're leading a team, running a business, navigating a transition, or just trying to figure out what's next for you. This will maybe help you out a little bit. Number one, truth number one, clarity comes from movement, not from planning. We got a plan, but clarity comes from movement. This is the one that trips us, most of us leaders. I've been there. I've gotten paralyzed in planning and instead of action. It is movement. It is action. It is taking that next step that actually gives us the clarity. We're waiting to feel clear about, all of it before we move. We think clarity is the prerequisite to action, but I've lived the opposite. When I was going through Don Miller's process, I didn't have clarity about all of the coaching until I started moving toward it. I didn't know I was supposed to get a master's until I'm like, you know what? I need to really kind of I want to I want to be the best coach I can possibly be. So I'm gonna go actually go back to school, believe it or not, right? And so when I put a 10-year plan together, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of the North Star. That's the preferred destination. I didn't just hope, I'm like, I'm just gonna wing it. No, we put a plan together, but then I had to take action. And here's something, I'll just be honest with you, full transparency. When I did that, I put that in kind of the drawer and I didn't look at it for months. And then a few months later, something happened, and I'm like, you know what? I need to get that back out. I looked at it again. I'm like, wow, it's been a year. I haven't done anything with it, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, you know what? I can't keep kicking this thing down the can down the street. I got to get in this thing, and so that's what I did. So that's what the next best step is. It's the next 200 feet in front of you. And what happens when you take it, the next 200 feet appear. So if you're sitting there right now going, I'm stuck because I can't see the whole picture, that's not a sign that you're not ready. That's a sign that you're actually exactly where you're supposed to be. You just need to move. Truth number two, the best step is about wisdom, not speed. Now, here's where I want to push back on a little bit on the hustle culture, the chase culture for a second. When I say take your next best step, I'm not just saying just do something. Just get out there and hustle. I'm not talking about moving fast. I'm talking about moving wisely. There's a reason it's called your next best step, not your next fastest step, not your next biggest step, your best step. And that word best, it implies discernment. It means you've listened, you've reflected, and now you're responding with intention. That's the listen, reflect, respond that Coach Wayne Gordon taught me at CCDA. Have talked about it before. It's baked right here into this philosophy. Now, look at how my transition played out. I didn't rush. I read the book in late 2020, early 21. I built the plans. I enrolled in school. I started coaching one client, and I didn't step out of the pasture until August of 23. It's over 2 years of intentional, wise movement, not fast, not reckless, but wise. Proverbs 13:20 says this. I love Proverbs because it's Solomon. I wish Solomon he'd give us great advice. He just didn't live his own advice, which sometimes I understand that very well. But he makes this statement. He says, walk with the wise and become wise. The best step is often informed by the wisest voices around you. It's not about isolation. It's about having people in your corner who can see what you can't and what I can't see. So let me ask you, are you moving fast or are you moving wisely? Because there's a big difference. Speed without wisdom is just noise. But wisdom in motion, man, that's good leadership right there. That's what I call good self leadership. Truth number 3, the next best step requires trust, and trust requires community. And this is where it all comes together, because here's the thing about taking your next best step. You need trust to be able to do it well. Trust in yourself, trust in the process, trust in God, trust in the people around you. EDOT, that's a little framework that I'm always talking about. Everything depends on trust. And trust is the soil from which everything good grows out of. Your leadership, your relationships, your decisions, all of it is rooted in trust. But here's the hard truth. Most leaders don't have a trusted space to process their next best step. They're making decisions alone. They're isolated. They're carrying the weight alone. And when you're alone, every step feels heavier and riskier than it has to be. The leaders who take their next best step with clarity and confidence, they're not smarter. They're not more talented. I think they're just more connected. They have a room, they have a locker room, if you will, where they can slow down, get honest, be vulnerable about where they are, get sharpened by people who care about their growth. Another thing that we see from King Solomon, he says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. You see, your next best step is not just about you, it's about who you take it with. So here it is. Going to wrap this thing up. Practical application, how to find your next best step even this week. So let me make this practical. If you're listening and you're in a season where you feel stuck, uncertain, maybe a bit overwhelmed by all the things in front of you, here's what I want you to do. 3 questions. Here's 3 simple questions. Question number 1, what do I already know I need to do? That's a tough, 9 times out of 10, you and I, we already know what we should do. We just have been avoiding it. We've been dismissing it. We've been distracted, overthinking, or waiting for someone to give you permission. But you know it. Name it. Say it out loud. Write it down. That's probably your next best step. Question number 2. Who do I need to talk to before I move? Remember, wisdom, not speed. Your next best step is almost always informed by a great conversation you haven't quite had yet. A mentor, a coach, a trusted friend, a spouse. Who's the person you need to be honest with before you take that next best step? Here's the last question, number 3. What's the smallest version of this step I can take today? Not next month, not next week, but today. Not when the budget's right, not when you feel ready, when you get all the equipment, when you get it all together, when it looks perfect. Today. Because movement creates clarity. And the smallest steps still count. Send the email, make the call, have the conversation, block the time, start before you're ready. So, hey, and with that in mind, I want to share with you, this is, I think, the 28th episode, and I can't believe it. I got, email yesterday. Hey, welcome to the top 1% of all podcasters. And I'm like, what is that? And he says, you've made it past 25. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not a very high bar. But one of the things that I've been just working with leaders and getting feedback and even feedback from the podcast and listeners, which I so appreciate, is a space that is live. And it's maybe not one-on-one coaching, maybe it's not a mastermind, a big group, but something that's a little safer, a little more accessible than that. And so, man, I'm really excited about launching something in late April that I'm sending out emails about it. And if you would like to hear more about what that uh, would look like and what it's going to be, then man, go over to my website, bcleadershipco.com. Let me say it again, bcleadershipco.com. And you can go on there and you can start to read about it. Or if you want to just DM me, man, I'll connect you and I'll start sending you the emails of what that's going to be. Next week, I'll tell you a little bit more about what that is. But man, I'm excited about the possibility of what's going to be happening in this community over the next couple of weeks, actually, next couple of months. So hey, thank you for hanging in here with me today. Because here's what I know: your next best step is a whole lot easier to take when you're not taking it alone. Let's pay attention. Here's kind of a coach tip for you this week. Pay attention to who you're becoming this week more than what you're producing. Pay attention to who you're becoming more than what you're producing. Sometimes what we produce, how we're performing, it's all the noise. But sometimes we need to just pay attention to the person that we're becoming. So, hey, all right, leaders, that's another session in the locker room. Leadership grows in the soil of trust and curiosity. So keep tending to both of those. Pay attention to what matters most. Be curious, be intentional, and take your next best step. And remember, I'm in your corner. So now let's go live it out. I'll see you back here next time.